Hi, my name's Rochelle Rosenberg. I'm currently an exclusive color artist for Marvel Comics, working on War of the Realms books, Punisher, Giant Man, Uncanny X-Men, Marvel Rising, Dr. Aphra. Thanks for listening to Southern Fried Geek. 1, 2, 3.
I think I was liking War of the Realms, but I decided I liked it.
Yeah, it's doing weird things. I like it.
Yes.
What's next Wednesday?
The 22nd.
I guess I should have known that because I'm leaving Thursday.
Yeah, are you going to be here Sunday? This next Sunday?
I just said I'm leaving Thursday.
Yeah. You won't be back by Sunday.
I will not be back until the 3rd of June. Yeah.
So the next 2 Sundays.
Yeah, so I'm going to be out. I should have.
Oh, you're going to Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
sorry.
Right. No, I like when you said that's the one I was like, you said you were leaving. I was like, I don't really know where you're going.
2 shows, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Just so we know.
I will be getting back on a Sunday, but it's going to be like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, for sure. Even if it was 11 o'clock in the morning, like, nah, don't bother, dude. Relax.
Yeah, actually, if you could jump out of the plane over Sherwood instead of having to go all the way to West
the other people
East
on the
Little
plane.
Rock.
Just scream on your way down what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be flying pretty low by that point, so just take an umbrella and Mary Poppins the fuck out of it.
Absolutely.
You should be fine. Nothing bad can come out
quit
of
being
that.
a bitch.
Well,
I've seen no flaws in this plan.
none whatsoever. You want to do a podcast?
No.
I'm going old school with it.
Really, no.
Just going to take a break and not do this.
I'm done.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting, fun-filled, super duper fantastic episode of the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Sean.
I'm Jerry, and apparently we have fun on the show now.
We do. That's what happens. Who knows?
Only took 73 episodes?
Nope, 72.
72
Jumping ahead of
episodes.
yourself, sir.
Man.
No, you were right because we're not going to have fun this episode. Next episode, we're not fucking
Next
here.
episode when Jerry's not here.
When Jerry's gone, we're going to have a blast.
As a premonition by Sean.
Right?
So you have that to look forward to. Well, if you are new to the show, we want to welcome you. This is episode 72. This episode, we're going to talk about some comics. Jump around a little bit, tell you what we've been reading.
I hate comic book week. No, I'm sorry.
Do you really? That's,
No.
That's disappointing.
You say you hate comic book week? Isn't that like every week?
Yeah.
If you're new to the show, we are 4 guys who live in Central Arkansas that like to chat about comics and kind of geek culture. Each week we drop new episodes on Sunday, which you know because you're listening to this one, so it's like the tail wagging the dog, so who knows what the point is. But we have fun doing it. We hope you guys do too. If you want more of this, you should feel free to come by our... Oh, you okay?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just want to make
Craig,
sure
you
you're okay.
ruined the intro. He was really on a roll there, too.
I was using my professional voice.
I'm bad. I'm sorry. I even took a drink of water to try and keep it from happening. And it still happened.
It's all good. I just care about your well-being, buddy.
I'm great.
That's all I want. That's all I want. I want you to be happy. But what I was saying
We
is...
didn't talk about... I thought we were talking about health.
Those aren't related. What I was saying is, if you want more of what this show is, if you like it, and we really hope you do, you should swing by our Facebook page. It is the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast group on there, and a lot of our members are hanging out on there. A lot of the community, we're posting news, we're talking about comics, we're just connecting with folks on a level that, sometimes you can't because of distances and all that fun stuff. It's good times. Great. We have a really good Facebook page. We are also on Instagram at SFG Podcast, and we're at SFG Podcast on the Twitters. So tweet at us, gram us. Is that what you call? Do you Insta or do you gram? What's the shortened version of that? Jerry, you're the internet. You tell me.
Oh, man. I don't know.
Yeah, you're wearing your So Lazy shirt today.
The brain is lazy, too.
Yeah, no, Insta tweet, Snapchat us. Yeah, whatever fuck you kids do these days.
Just poke us in the internet. That's how it works.
What?
I don't know.
Giggity.
Has everybody had a good week? Jerry, we know you're tired because you said so. That's how I know that.
Yeah.
With a mouthful of donut?
I'm tired.
Okay. Sean, how's your week going, brother?
I'm glad to see y'all right now.
Awesome.
That's
We're
all I'm gonna
glad
say.
to see you.
That's all I can say.
Craig?
It was a pretty decent week for
Yeah.
a change. It was It was pretty decent.
I didn't do any homework this week,
Look
and
at
it's
you.
amazing. I read a shit ton.
College graduate, you.
I worked a shit ton.
The best week though.
You did. You guys had a big sale and stuff.
We did. And
Selling art and furniture. And
Yeah, the design district that I worked in. Yeah, by the way, gay dude also works for a design company. I'm a cliche. We're aware of this. We had a big sidewalk sale, and for 2 days I sat in the sun selling expensive ass furniture. Got some really cool shit too.
Did you?
I did.
Cool.
It's fun times. But that's not what this show's about. This is
It
not
could be.
about. This is. Do we need to have a furniture podcast?
Have a
Let's
seat
do a
podcast.
podcast.
Southern fried furniture sounds pretty good. I'm just gonna say.
No. Have a seat podcast.
That's actually a really good name. Look at you go, man.
I do things.
But well, let's talk about some comics.
yeah, let's.
How y'all feel about that?
Yeah.
All right, so Jerry's dying.
Apparently,
I'm sorry.
the coughs have it.
Have
you
a
know,
Seat
we're just-
podcast sounds like To Catch a Predator podcast. So
It's a spinoff. Yeah.
I mean, logistically, if you have a podcast named Have a Seat, it should probably be just a bunch of gays and people of color just bitching about white men.
hey,
And right now, we probably need to.
Right.
But enough about that. Bitching about white men.
For
Let's talk
For
about comics,
now.
where we talk about white men.
Let's talk about a bunch of white dudes.
So if you haven't listened to the show on a comic episode week, you can tell we're really loose. We have really loose format. We just kind of we enjoy each other's company.
We don't have a loose format.
This show is falling apart today, and I fucking love it.
Don't leave me alone. We roundtable a comic at the beginning of every episode, no matter what, and this week is no different. So this week we are bringing to you straight from the monolith that is Marvel, Giant Man #1. It's a War of the Realms tie-in, not a War of the Worlds tie-in.
That would be weird.
I mean technically
That would've been
but
better.
I guess the world
Craig be all over
right?
it, another invasion story.
And this one
I mean,
comes.
this is an invasion book.
It is.
But this is aliens.
God, are they really?
No. They're gods.
Yeah. But this one comes to us from Leah Williams, who is doing the writing. Marco Castillo, who is doing the arts. Rochelle Rosenberg, not really sure, who is coloring it, and letters by Joe Sabino, who you see a lot. He's like one of 3 people who apparently does letters in the world, because his name is in everything. And so this book picks up with the Ant-Man that you may know from the movies if you're not familiar with Ant-Man continuity. It's Mr. Scott Lang. And he's asleep, having a little bit of sleep paralysis, which is terrifying. I hear. I've never actually had it.
Yeah, that immediately made me think of Jerry
Absolutely.
and Tanya. They
Yeah.
both have those. My
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah. Sleep paralysis. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and so dude, I can't imagine. Like, I freak out when I wake up and like my arm is asleep and I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine that being your whole body. I don't even want to think about it. But Scott Lang is having to think about it because he is in fact experiencing it. And so what Leah Williams does in the beginning of this, she gives you a little explanation of what happens with sleep paralysis. And basically what she's telling you is this happens, your brain like gives you a very specific dream. Your brain literally tries to scare you back to life, which is incredible. I didn't know this fact, and it's apparently a science thing. That's really cool to imagine, like your body trying to like, no, fuck you. Like, this is the way you're going to like force wake you up is by terrifying you. And he wakes up, and what he sees is a vision of Thor's mama, Lady Freya. And I guess we should have started this off by saying spoiler warnings. We'll do it now, because that's how this works. We're on the ball today. It's amazing. We are going to talk about new comics. This one came out last
Welcome
week.
to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast.
War of the Realms is like in its 4th issue. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
it is.
right?
And
We
Yeah,
covered the
third
first
issue.
one
Yeah.
already.
But still.
But just in case.
But still, spoilers. Lady Freya's a little pissed off because Laufey, the king of the Frost Giants, ate the fuck out of their son. I guess he's the progeny of both of them. He birthed him and Freya raised him. So she's mad about it, like you can imagine she might be, because, no one likes to see their baby get eaten. It's from what I understand.
True.
I'm not a parent, so I don't know this to be a fact, but I would imagine not. And so she's coming to Ant-Man. And what she says is, look, I'm pissed off about it. I'm putting you together with some folks. I'm going to give you what you need, and you're going to go on a murder parade.
I like how she didn't even ask. She just
No,
runs
she
in and
tells
she
him.
starts telling him
Yes.
this mission that he's going on.
She breaks it down for him. He doesn't get a choice in the matter. He's just like, she's like, nope, you're going to go kill some folks. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to shift you over to the Black Bifrost, and then you're going to be there and have murder. Like, make a murder party. It's fun. because murder's fun, at least to Lady Freya. So Scott goes about, I guess, assembling his team.
She had already assembled them.
She had already
contacted the
yeah,
other
they're all meeting up. So, but the way the story works, he's going in there and
it's all kind of from his
introducing
point of view.
himself.
Yeah.
And so he makes he meets some of his friends. One of the first people he meets is Raz Malhotra. I always fuck up his name.
Yeah.
Ever since the first time I've read it, I'm not really sure. Anyway, AKA Giant Man. This is the kind of Latinx version of Latin Man. He's a gay man. He's been in a lot of stuff. I can't remember the last time I read him.
It was in an Ant-Man book when Scott gave him the outfit.
Yeah,
he was helping Scott, and Scott mailed him one of the Pym deals.
I never heard of him before this issue.
Who wrote that? Because I remember reading it. Was it?
Dude, it's been a minute since I read it.
Yeah.
I want to. Yeah, I don't even want to lie about it. I'll look it up here after a bit.
I wonder if it was Morning Glory's guy that I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, none of this matters. This is just my
not
brain.
for this book. I can't think of it right now.
He also meets Tom Foster, aka Goliath, the son of Bill, or the grandson of Bill Foster, which was the first Goliath, and who you also see in the movie of Ant-Man and Wasp, played by Morpheus, because that's who he is in real life. That's how I know him.
Is that who he is in John Wick, too?
Yes.
Yeah,
He's just
always
Morpheus. He's just Morpheus in everything.
Yeah.
And then
he's Dirty Morpheus in John Wick.
Dirty Morpheus. That's a show title. Remember that. Text.
That's the name of my punk band.
And then we meet the last member of our little assassin party, and that is Mr. Eric Johnston, a.k.a. Atlas, that you may know from the Thunderbolts. And he is big and dumb. That's essentially his superpower. The poor bastard's not a smart man.
And he used to be a bad guy.
He did.
Now he's
kind of still
ambiguously a good guy.
I remember the last time I saw him, he was getting murdered by Hawkeye, an old man Hawkeye.
Yep.
So, real quick spoiler warning about this entire plot of this thing. Did anybody else read Thor?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah, spoiler. Loki's actually alive, being digested slowly in Laufey's belly. So
Loki is alive.
Yeah,
he got out of that one.
A faked out death of
no,
Loki?
What? No, he's being
but
digested.
Yeah,
he's Sarlacc pitting right now.
It's taking a really long time.
Right.
So now that the band is together, and they are going after, they're trying to do what Lady Freya told them to do. They go through a series of, it's basically just a dick measuring contest. This entire issue is just a dick measuring contest.
How big can you get? Well, I can get this big.
Right.
Well, can you get this big? Oh, how come and how come the black man only gets half as big as the other?
I can't answer that. But there's also, so this, and we'll get into this later, but like I actually have a problem with some of this, and the way it's written.
Yeah, and also in the whole, continuity of Goliath, he could never really get as big as Pym. Like that was always their like little feud or whatever.
He just has to try really hard, really, really hard to get all the way up. There's so many jokes.
You have to tell him it's pretty also.
God damn it.
It helps if you tell him it's pretty.
So they do what they're supposed to do. They go, and Freya has put together, or at least found, a quote-unquote weapons cache. So essentially the plan for these guys is they are going to disguise themselves as frost giants because they can get big. And like you said, Goliath at first can't get all the way to the height he needs to, about 65 feet. They make a lot of short jokes. They joke about maybe being with a frost giant child. It's a mechanism to put some funny in there. It worked, kinda.
It's all right.
They don their outfits and try to make themselves look as much like frost giants as they can. Then they go into a kind of frost giant market. Oh, by the way, we should mention, this isn't in Swartleheim or whatever it is. It's in fucking Florida.
Which, isn't
The
much different
wilds
from regular Florida.
except that it's full of ice.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Yeah, so
Florida's full of a different kind of ice.
Yes. I have been there. This is a fact. Oh, Florida.
I love how Scott put the tusks on the Pym helmet,
right.
So he just tied them on there.
Duct taped. And it's a metaphor for this book because everything is kind of duct taped together. So they go to this market and they are all dressed up. They're trying to make their way. Tom Foster loses his concentration, shrinks a little bit. The guy at the market's like, what the fuck? Like, wait, who is that? He was like, oh, that's just my manservant.
Florida man shrinks in market.
Yeah, just, and, there's by the way,
this entire issue should be Florida man news titles.
Were y'all, did you see the little fun thing going around
Florida
Facebook not too long ago? It was the Florida man, like you look up Florida man and your birthday and you see what stupid thing happened. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, they get away from the marketplace. Scott Lang actually has this really great moment of acting where he like throws a knife down and was like, "You're going to give me what I paid for?" Because he's talking to the guy at the market, right? He's kind of stiffing him. Or do I have to like skin you alive? Which is badass. That was a cool Scott Lang moment. It works. He rolls a, he rolls
Scott Lang or Atlas?
I thought it was Atlas.
I think it's Atlas.
See, I thought it was Scott Lang because I don't think
it
Atlas
didn't really show, but I assumed it was
I
Atlas.
think because Scott Lang was wearing a helmet. And,
I think it was Atlas with the nose ring.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was Atlas because he's a badass.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, Caleb.
No, for sure.
I was just going to let it slide.
No, dude, I appreciate you correcting me.
I usually assume I'm wrong when you're making statements.
I had a hard time telling a lot of these characters apart when they were being written.
We'll get into that.
Yeah,
definitely.
that was part of the struggle. It was real. As they're walking away, they go to a series of caves to kind of regroup and hide. The caves are a kennel for ice puppies, which in concept would be amazing. Ice puppies? That's like those little finnick foxes. Like you just want to cut them. They'll actually eat your face. And so will these. So will these ice hounds. Which because they're not actually ice giants, the hounds go crazy and call forth the army. Troubles ensue. That's kind of where we leave off for the book. When I say it like I just said it, it doesn't sound like bad. When I read this book, I don't particularly enjoy it. Craig, what did you think? Just off the cuff.
It was
Yeah.
The entire book was I like Scott in the movies a whole lot better than I enjoy him in the comics usually. So.
They did that Ant-Man and Wasp book that was really
that one was fun
good.
when they were trapped in the
Microverse.
microverse. But for the most part, Scott, any sort of the Ant-Man books starring Scott just kind of
fall short for you.
They do. They try to write them a little bit too much like Deadpool. It's too comedic sometimes.
Right, yeah.
And just a little, and it's fine. But usually I get bored with them pretty quick, and I kind of felt that way from the moment I started reading this book.
Yeah, it's very hard meh for me as well. It feels, if I'm not mistaken, when I was reading I did it on the online app, it said it's a 3-issue miniseries.
It is.
Yeah.
And it feels like it. Like they are just kind of rushing some things. I know force is a term used a lot, but like there's a lot of just like forced humor, forced like situational stuff. It's just, I don't know. I was not feeling this book at all.
Yeah. And I guess as our resident Ant-Man fan, there are parts of it I could enjoy, but for the most part, overall, I don't see myself picking up the second or third issue. They didn't really, other than Scott's daughter being in Florida, his motivation for killing things seemed really off.
And that's what I meant. Like, it was like in part of like the force thing. Like he accepted that kill mission really fucking quick. And I don't know.
I'll be an assassin. I'm a burglar. Let me just go be an assassin.
So here is, So the interesting thing that you have to remember when you get to the end of this book is how it started. He's having sleep paralysis.
Right.
Your brain is giving you a very, like Leah Williams flat out says it, we're going to give you a very specific nightmare to force start your body. There is no transition. It's just, I'm going to give you these facts. All of a sudden, Freya's talking to you. I think he's dreaming. I think this is the very specific nightmare.
No, the specific nightmare is the demon that he couldn't see.
Well, but the large intimidating demon that was blue, it was like a frost giant, right? So
you think maybe it's like Loki sort of manipulating him to get him free?
It very well could be. Anytime you involve Loki or Asgardians in it, you start. I'm sorry, Sean, you kind of start down this weird path anyway. So
right. If that's what they were trying to get across, I didn't pick up at all. It just felt like a really quick, let's get this. Just like I said, it is a miniseries, and you got to kind of allow for that kind of stuff to kind of get the story going sometimes. But this felt very rushed.
Yeah, but Leah Williams I've read a lot of Leah Williams. She's a good writer. I've read some of her X-Men stuff. I read her Domino run.
I think this suffers from what most of the miniseries tie-ins to events suffer from.
Yeah.
And that's that they're not required to tell the story of the event.
Yeah.
And you buy it and you think that you're getting something that's going to be groundbreaking for the event, and it really has. It's a side quest to the event. It really doesn't have a main. It's not going to affect the main story of the event in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a thing. Some of them are more fluid than others. This feels like Marvel was like, hey, let's what sounds like fun. Yeah, let's throw this in here. There were a couple parts in here that made me giggle though.
Yeah. There were some
and
great
just the fact that he was like shrunk down sleeping in a tree and they did not explain that at all, like why he was even there.
With a fire going in a thimble.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you had that scene at the end where Scott goes, "Come on, we all have PhDs. We can figure this out." And Atlas raises his hand, and they all think he's got a brilliant idea, and he's like, "I don't have a PhD."
He's not a smart man. No. But no, I mean, back to the nightmare thing.
Yeah,
it's interesting because if you think about Scott Lang and the characterization of this guy, something that would scare him is not being taken seriously, because that's part of his character arc since the inception is no one takes him seriously. Right. He's just a thief. He doesn't deserve it. And in this book, he's kind of relegated with all the sea-level Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. I mean, like Sean, you said you haven't heard of half of these people. No. It's not a lot of people haven't. For him, that would be that's always been a scary thing, is not living up to
not being
his
a real
namesake.
Avenger. Yeah, not.
And so I think there's something to this, especially because of the lack of transition. And then you just jump into Lady Freya. Right. Yeah, I wonder. So, and part of me wants to keep reading just to see how this goes.
I think it's probably really happening, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you're right.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the impression that this is a horrible book.
Oh, no,
it's not a horrible book. I was kind of disappointed that a lot of the jokes kind of had to do with
size.
No, a lot of the jokes were really taken at people of color, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That kind of bothered me a little bit.
That was one of the problems I had with the book.
Yeah.
Were there any in particular?
The size, like I said earlier, the black man only being half the size, I think that was addressing a certain stereotype.
The one that stood out to me that I really went cross-eyed at and was kind of cringed at was the having Tom Foster go directly to being the quote-unquote angry black man that wants to blame everything on racism. To me, this is part of the problem and people like me, white people in general, try to write black characters, and sometimes they miss the mark. And that's a trope, right? Like, that is a trope. But in this, it didn't. It's one of those things, like, if you're going to have it, you have to make it feel earned. I don't think it was earned.
It felt very just like, I don't know, this character. I remember the old Goliath.
Yeah.
And not that I knew him a whole lot, but this is a new character to me, for the most part, at least the person himself. Mm-hmm. I know there was a hero named Goliath before.
Yeah.
And he's almost immediately being the asshole.
Yeah.
Like I said, immediately written in, I was like, is he a villain? Cause they said he's a son. I'm like, oh, did he turn back? Cause he comes across as he just hates these other heroes other than obviously Atlas.
Yeah.
Not being a hero. But yeah, I think he was poorly written. The whole, like I said, the Scott Lang coming up with that quick excuse of why he shrunk suddenly in the middle of the thing, and he's like blaming it on, you're a racist. And like, that felt very just like, we're going to try and make either a bad joke or a bad statement. You know what I mean? Not well done.
I think it was a bad attempt.
Yeah.
I think the problem is none of us know that character well enough to know if that's who he really is or not.
But like I said, it is an introduction. This is like we talked about before, a first issue is an introduction for a lot of people. And for me, like, this is, I'm pretty sure the first time I've read a Scott Lang Ant-Man book. Mm-hmm. And I remember Ant-Man from the old days, Pym, so this was an introduction for a lot of these characters for me as a new reader, and it just completely turned me off.
Okay. And then, I've read these characters before, and it kind of turned me off of them.
Right. Yeah.
But there was a lot of good in this book. Like I said, I think the plot is really fun. This whole idea of an adventure, cosplaying ice giants, that's cool to me. That was a fun moment.
Oh, for sure. My wife's a very big fan of saying, I love the concept. It's not the execution.
Uh-huh.
And I think that sums up this book.
Yeah.
And it may improve in the next couple of issues.
I mean, who could have told that Scott Lang was going to fuck up the whole thing in the beginning? I mean, who would have ever foresaw that coming, that within the very first issue that their entire cover was going to be blown?
Yeah.
Did you see that coming, Jerry?
Oh, yeah.
I just kind of thought it was going to be Atlas that did it, because Atlas is just a big goofball.
I mean, it really wasn't Scott's fault. He did his best to cover.
I was saying, because like Goliath shrunk. And then was it Atlas that was getting too close to the dogs? And making and giving the whole, like, it's not the breed, it's the owner, which is a good point for a lot of like dogs, but also to me, it felt kind of like, why would you bring that up right now? We're in the middle. Like, it just felt like a good attempt done at badly.
And then to go into it actually is because it's specifically
right.
Which, and maybe that was the actual joke. I don't know, but it didn't ring well with me.
In fairness, Goliath shrunk down because he was going to go try and save the humans that were prisoners. Mm-hmm. It forced him to lose his concentration. Now, you want to talk about a horrible superhero power? That you can only remain the superhero if you concentrate on remaining that. I mean, you're in the middle of battle and you have to constantly keep concentrating.
I wouldn't know anything about being in the middle of the battle and forgetting to concentrate, and therefore getting hit by people when I'm RPGing with Craig being the DM.
I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, you just
I
died
never
'cause
turned you
were
into
on
a sponge.
Johnson. You didn't. That's a very good point.
But in honesty, like at least I remember, I'm pretty sure it was an X-Men book a long time ago. And it's always stuck with me in my mind. Of like they were describing maybe New Mutants, but like an early mutant trying to practice their ability. They compared it to like flexing a muscle.
Yeah.
So you got to think about, so like when they said you got to maintain that concentration, that's how it is. Like to activate your powers is always like in the middle of battle, keeping your muscles taut and flexed. So.
Well, but if I'm not mistaken, Goliath isn't a mutant. He uses PIM particles just like
He uses PIM particles.
Is Atlas a mutant? I'd have to go back and check.
I don't remember
Atlas.
and like I said, I use
human testing.
Gotcha,
is
yeah.
what turned him
and
into
I use the X-Men example as kind of an umbrella for all powers.
Right. No,
you know
for
what I
sure.
mean? Like it's always a concentration. It's always like keeping your muscles flexed the entire time. It's like, so like him losing because he got distracted. Sure. But if that, and I got that, but at the same time, fucker failed his stealth roll. Why the fuck would you do that in front of these fucking vendors? It just didn't make sense. I get why he did
on a stealth.
I get why he did it, but it was just poorly chosen, like right there in front of the guy.
Yeah.
He just threw all of it out. So like, it just,
Yeah, I mean,
meh.
I think it kind of fits because they're all
And I don't know the guy. Like I said, I
they're
don't know
all
the character.
not the smartest of characters, anyways. They're all kind of they have this power to be like big, huge, hulking giants that can smash anything, but they're also not one of them's known for being, which is also the other part of the joke on we all have PhDs. I don't think any of them have PhDs, which is Atlas going.
Yeah.
Well, no, they were breaking down like their credentials, saying like bioengineering and stuff like that in the issue. Like they all are fucking.
Scott's not.
Hey, he's just
But even he has some tech knowledge.
Oh, he's
I believe
got
like
tech knowledge,
in the beginning, like they kind of broke down each of their, other than Atlas, he punches.
Yeah.
That's all they said about Atlas. So even Goliath is supposed to be a smart motherfucker from what I understood.
Oh, Tom Foster. I mean, his dad or granddad is Bill Foster. So, there is a legacy of really intelligent people with all of these. I don't think Scott Lang has a PhD though.
He doesn't.
So
if he does, they've retconned it.
that was an interesting blip. I
didn't catch it if he said it in the beginning.
No, he said we all have PhDs, but I think that was and I think that was the part that he missed it.
Oh yeah, expertise, engineering and electronics, and being a good dad.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, no,
He has a PhD in being a good dad, Craig.
maybe that's what it is. I don't know if you can say that when he's having to go to Florida to find his kid.
Well, his daughter's grown now.
Yeah, she's
also has Ant-Man technology.
Yeah, she's stature, so that's a really cool little bit. I also want to point out, there were some problematic parts, but I really did enjoy the representation. I mean, you've got a gay character, and he's like, "Hey, how's life going?" "Oh, I broke up with my boyfriend." This is, and it's just kind of a conversation,
Right.
Yeah.
It was a blip because oftentimes in conversation, that's how it works. You don't need to. How's your life? Oh, well, I came out when I was 14, and then leading up to the thing.
And the thing is that him and Scott have a history.
Yeah.
So that's why Scott's like, what was his name again? Because he couldn't remember his ex-boyfriend's name. But so there's no need to have that conversation because Scott knows him and knew him already.
And I think that was good writing.
Yeah, and with the way other stuff was kind of forced into there, that was well executed.
Yeah.
That was well done. It was just a very casual conversation between two people who knew each other.
Yeah,
there was no diatribe. There was no need for exposition in that because they know each other, and then you're not giving up for the reader. So that was well done.
I think so.
And then the book for me just slowly fell apart, even though the art was reversed, which we'll get into in a second.
Okay, well let's get into it though.
Okay.
So on the art on this, I had a really hard time telling any of these people apart, other than Goliath, who is a black man. Rochelle Rosenberg, get her job. Sorry, kind of threw me off a little bit.
Sorry.
Other than that, I had a really hard time telling anybody apart, and every character in this looks constipated all the time. All they just jaws. It's just like, I don't know if they just did like a rock and they can't like unclench their jaw.
I thought the giants looked pretty good. Yeah. I thought the ice hounds or whatever they're called, I thought those were good. I could tell Scott because he's wearing the PIM outfit through the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It was serviceable.
Yeah.
I'll put it at that.
Yeah, and like in the early, like when you first see Scott, like you get a really good close up, and he's obviously like unshaven. He's supposed to have stubble, and it's just stylistic choice, and it's just obviously not my preference. It didn't look like stubble; it looked like the artist just drew random lines. They have a sketchy style to begin with. And it kind of looked messy at first. And I got used to it as the book went on. Like, and once I got into costume and in disguise, it was better. But I agree with you. Like, in their civilian faces, yeah, if Giant Man didn't have a goatee. He probably looked exactly like them. It's just it wasn't like the not bad art, but not great art for me.
I mean, so the line work was fine. It was just the expressions that got me. It was that's the problem. The line work's fine. It's a little too, I mean, it's subjective, but it's a little too textured for my taste. I tend to, at least when it comes to this style, I like a cleaner line. This is not a clean line. It is very messy. It is kind of a sketch art style, which is, stylistically, that's a choice. That's fair.
And it could work. And I've seen stuff like, and I might have even seen this artist work before and liked it, but for some reason it just was not resonating with this.
Well, I think Scott works better when they draw him almost cartoony.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good point too, because I think the overall tone of the book was trying to be a bit more humorous, definitely at certain times, but I think overall it wanted to be a bit lighter than what it was. Mm-hmm. The art wasn't resonating that. Like, this may have just been a kind of a bad pairing.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
And that happens sometimes in these miniseries. The companies throw people that are available together to get these miniseries out. And that I've seen it happen before, where it's not necessarily a group that teams. I'm sorry, Kevin, that teams and wants to make a book together and pitches that book together. It's Marvel going, hey, we need this miniseries for our event. These two people are currently available. Let's put them on it.
Well, and it gives
only 3 issues.
It gives these artists and writers who are up and coming, who haven't necessarily. I mean, Leah Williams, we know her, but Marco Castillo, I think I've only seen him once or twice in books, just kind of randomly. It's a chance to, and that's part of having all of these little tie-ins to the world. It's a chance to bring in more people into the fold. Like, hey, here's your chance to write a Marvel book. They did it with Ryan Caddy, and that as like a blip in the back of a Wolverine story. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of a chance to get new writers in there and to get them working,
which is great.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. But that means you're going to get some stuff. These people who are still in practice, you're going to get some stuff that's less than what you necessarily wanted.
I mean, I liked the art in this book. I agree with you that the facial expressions don't always match what's going on in the story, but I thought the art was fine. I just don't think it matched, like Sean said, I don't think it matched the tone of the book real well. Yeah, but I wouldn't not be opposed to reading another book with Castillo on it.
Oh no, I just, like I said, it's fine. Like, the stylistically, it's fine. It just felt a little.
It's serviceable. I don't think it's Eisner Award winning art. I think it's serviceable art for a miniseries and an event, and that's what he was asked to do.
And I did like a little research because like I wanted to like look at the art because like the name sounded kind of familiar. Mm-hmm. And granted, it wasn't anything I'd read, but I went in and just Google searched him and looked up his other art. And the style is not the same on this as he's done in previous works. So I said whether it because of miniseries, maybe because it was a last minute thing, kind of rushed in, which happens, you know, deadlines and all that kind of stuff will get it in there. And again, better than I'll ever draw, I'm sure. But it's like, it just wasn't working for me in this book.
I will say, Rochelle Rosenberg was kind of the all-star of this. Her colors were fantastic.
Color work was
her palette's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Especially when you go through and a book with so much white, like that's hard to do, right? Yeah. We were talking about this when we were talking about Sword Daughter, how there's so much light in the book. That's not an easy task. And to make it and to not cover up any of the art, to use subtle shades to do things. I don't know. She's impressive. I got to meet her at C2E2. She's really cool.
Nice.
And I just, in looking at the art, I just turned to the page where the sign that they're going to the place they're going to in Florida is Yeehaw Junction. And that's funny to me.
Well, at one point when they're running, Scott makes a joke about Yeehaw.
Yeah.
He jumps over the sign, doesn't he?
I can't express this enough. So all in all, I might pick this up. I might pick the second issue up just because I'm curious, mainly to study it from a craft point to see if this is going to end up being the nightmare that Force starts his body, or just how they're going to do that, or like why is that important? Or if it's not important, then I don't like it because I think that's just a weird way to start a story for it not to be important. If it is important, I want to know why.
Well, there's 2 things that happen in this book that really turned me off from it. First, the fact that Scott was so quick to, okay, I'll go be a murder killer for you because that's not Scott's personality. Mm-hmm. He's a burglar. He's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay. He went to jail to steal the PIM suit to save his daughter's life. Mm-hmm. He's not a bad guy. He is a hero that has done some bad things, but he is not a killer. So the other thing that bothered me was that he was willing to wait till this mission was done before he went and saved Cassie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is not Scott either. He would have agreed to that, but as soon as they got there, been like, see y'all, peace out. I'm going to save my daughter, because that's who Scott is.
Yeah.
So those 2 things really kind of made me feel like the writer didn't know Scott Lang that well.
Well, and there's an easy way to do that, to still have it in that character, right? Like to still go on the mission and also have that being like, he needed to say to Freya, like, yeah, no, look, that's cool, but I'm going to go check on my daughter first. And then, because Freya's an actual god, she'll just be like, no, you're not. And like, here's why. But I think just a one sentence line would have accomplished that. And it's not in there. And yeah, so no, I agree. I noticed that as well.
Freya says, if you do this, I'll save Cassie for you.
Yeah.
Or I'll save your daughter for you. Well, I mean, I just don't see Scott really, even with a god telling him that, I don't see Scott being like, oh, okay, that sounds good. Yeah. We'll just wait till this is over. It's just not who Scott's personality is. Right. From any of the Scott Lang Ant-Man books I've read, it's not Scott's personality.
Right. Yeah, it's a no-go for me.
Nope.
As like I said, new to a lot of these characters, and just, like I said, I agree 100% that, like, even if they just gave Scott, like, even a thought bubble of, well, as soon as I get in there, I'm just going to ditch these guys and go get my daughter. It makes a lot more sense from the little I do know about Scott Lang. Mm-hmm. And then just, like I said, some jokes and, commentary that just kind of felt kind of just squeezed in there for the sake of it, I guess. Just didn't really do much for me at all. So, yeah, I'm not interested in this book.
Yeah, and, like you said, Scott's not written how Scott normally is written. He's a very off-the-rails type of person who somewhat has an issue with authority and following orders to a T. Yeah. So yeah, I probably will not.
Unless it's Cap.
Issue too. Yeah.
Unless Cap's giving him orders, he follows.
That's America's ass.
Yeah. So I mean, it was an okay book.
Yeah, it's mid range. The lower part of mid range.
I don't hate myself for buying the book.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So.
I want more Raz Malhotra. As Giant Man. I need to read more of that. It did make me miss Mike Allred drawing Scott.
Again, I think that Scott needs that more of Allred style, that kind of cartoony style.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. So, not the best book of the week that we've ever had, but not the worst by far. There were fun things we could say about it. Had a good time.
Yeah. Again, I love the plot. I agree with Sean wholeheartedly that it wasn't the story, it was the execution of the story.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about some individual books that we read this week. You want to go first, buddy?
Sure.
You are ready.
Yeah. So I read Excellence by Image. Writer on that was Brandon Thomas. The artist is Carrie Randolph. The colorist is Emilio Lopez, and letterer Ariel Basiche. It takes place in New York City, and it's obviously not our New York City. I don't know if it's in the future, if it's an alternate world or whatever. But they live in there's this tower that's called the Aegis, and within the Aegis resides all of the magical families and all of the training for magical people. This begins with one of the top families, the Dells, which are either the second or third top tier family in this world, magic world, having a male child. Well, having a male child is very important because it's a very patriarchal society. In fact, it gives you the information that women are not allowed to practice magic. Only the men are, and they have to use certain rules and so forth that are set within it, but it's very patriarchal. So this guy's got his firstborn son, and he's going to announce him to the world. And, well, most of the boys start to exhibit their magic by the time they're 5.1 years is the average. Well, years go by, 6, 7, 8, he's never started to exhibit any magic, and he's going through all the training and doing all the things. Nothing ever happens. His dad and his mom are fighting about it all the time, and he overhears all of this, of course, and then he's one day at training, and he just kind of loses it because his dad is dedicating more time to this other kid and not really, just kind of ignoring him. He's kind of become, well, you're my son, but you're not important because you don't have magic, and my family line's going to end because you suck because you don't have magic.
What a dick.
Pretty much. And so the kid goes into a fit of rage, and of course his magic powers come out. Yeah, they manifest. And so the real interesting thing about this is that they give you the kid's name in the very first page of the book. No one refers to him by that name. It's mostly boy and child and things like that. Well, they're a black family, so there's that too. Until he manifests his magic, and then all of a sudden he gets a name again. So, he's way behind the 8 ball. 5 years go by of him training, and his dad's extremely hard on him through the training. He's got to go through the trials. He goes to his grandma. They have this big she kind of tells him she says, well, your dad wouldn't cheat because no one would ever cheat to get through the trials. Wink, wink. But maybe if you did this, you could get through the trials. Mm-hmm. He's 15. He's 5 years behind. He's got a lot to prove. I'm not going to tell a whole lot more on what happens because I want you to read the book because it's really good. The art on this book matches the story unbelievably well. It's some of the best art I've seen in quite a long time on a book. In fact, I had to go look this guy up because I don't remember Carrie Randolph. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that name. So I had to go look up some of the stuff, and he did We Are Robin and some of these other books. So you've seen his work even if you don't remember the name.
That was it. Hey, Real Robin was a good story.
Yeah, he did the first 2 issues of that. So, the colors work really well in the book. Everything about the art is just great in this book. The story was really good. You have a good look at not just family, but mysticism in this. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I love about this book is that so many times in books, first issues, they try to develop the whole world for you. Mm-hmm. What they did is they gave you a couple of illustrations of the tower and put different names on the tower so you could see the hierarchy of the names. Then they'd do another illustration of the the tower, and they would say, okay, this is where the rooks are. This is where the mid-levels are. So you could kind of see, and they put little notes on those so you could kind of develop the world within this tower without having to explain it. Then they just assume that you understand the rest of it, which I really, really liked because just get me the story.
Yeah, contextual classism.
Let the world develop as the story goes. You don't have to develop the world and then give me the story. So I really love that. One thing I have to say on this is that really bothered me, and I'm obviously not a black man. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a black teenager, obviously, but both of the writer and the artist on this both are black. So this is with a heavy, heavy caveat that they know what they're writing more than I do. Yeah. I don't like them using the trope that the black teenager had to get angry to manifest his powers. Yeah. But again, I'm not a black man. I didn't grow up as a black teenager. Both of these guys did. So I'm going to trust their judgment on it. And it's with a very heavy caveat that I say that. Yeah. So definitely going to give this the first story arc and see where it develops.
Very cool.
So
nice.
And I'm sure if this book were getting rated by the jerks, it would get, every page torn. And
are you going back to your stab ratings?
Well, maybe. Yes. I mean, a powerful black family that's like the second or third most powerful. Mm-hmm. I mean, how they're going to rate this book. I mean, I'd give it 4.5 or 5 out of 5 stabs.
Well, it's just interesting because that seems to be, in the 2 books that we've talked about, having the quote unquote, I'm tired of seeing the angry black man as a trope.
Well, again, and I say that with this book with a heavy, heavy caveat because it is a black writer and a black artist on this book. Yeah. So I trust that they're not where they're going with it. But again, I hate the fact that you're portraying a teenage black kid that the only way he can get his powers is to get angry, or to become powerful is to get angry. Mm-hmm. That kind of bothers me a little bit. But again, I don't know, if I was a black teenager and seeing the way the world is, I might be able to understand that being angry gives you power as a black teenager. So maybe that's what they're trying to say. So it's with a very heavy caveat that I say that. So
nice. What'd you read this week, Sean?
I read a new manga franchise. Actually, Jerry recommended me, and I just wanted to bring some attention to it. It's called Black Torch by Tsuyoshi Takaki. It's a story of Jiro Azuma, who is a descendant of Ninja Clan. And he has the ability, not only is he getting trained as a ninja, he was born with the ability to talk to animals, which, as far as I can recall, is unique to him. Like, it's not part of his family's training. Right. It opened up with him as a child, washing his dog after getting picked on, and the dog's talking to him like, hey, why don't you just give me a bath? You wash off the dirt, I'll also wash off the bad in your day. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. Like, you can tell he was kind of picked on growing up. But then it fast forwards to him now as a teenager. You see a bunch of punks hanging out underneath a bridge, and they're doing something. You can't really tell what they're doing right away, but he's in there putting a stop to it. They try to fight him. He uses some ninja tricks of throwing his jacket up and disappearing and taking him out pretty quick, just getting rid of him. You find out there was a cat and a crow they were throwing rocks at. So he wanted to protect them. And then you see them talking to him like, thank you. He goes, yeah, I just don't like people picking on the weak.
Yeah.
So it goes back to his home. You see, he lives with his grandfather who's training him in martial arts and just kind of keeping the lineage going with it. And then after a while, you see the crow who you saved earlier come and say, hey, we need your help. Mm-hmm. So he follows it. He finds a cat that's real beat up, real damaged. So, of course, scoops it up, takes it home. It cuts to the cat waking up, and it's thinking to itself, like, sees him giving it food. He's like, oh, whatever, I'll eat the food and I'll go. This idiot doesn't even know what he's doing with me. He's like, who are you calling an idiot? The cat's like, whoa, you can hear me. And so it's that big reveal. Yeah, I've always been able to talk to animals. Well, that's strange as fuck kind of a thing. But what you find out is this is not a cat. Mm-hmm. This is a creature called a mononoke. And that's basically what this world kind of opens up into, that there are these spirits, these demons called mononoke. Some can look like humans, some can look like animals. And his name is Reigo, and he's a very powerful one that these other mononoke are hunting down because he will not work with them. And what this turns into is, like, I've been using comparatively, I've been trying to spread the word on this, is for any of you who liked Bleach early on, it has that really good setup like that to this book. Because basically, Reigo wants to go on his own because the Mononoke are hunting him. The kid was nice, so he's leaving it alone, but then this big monstrous one tracks down Reigo, is right about to fuck him up, and Jiro interferes. And at first, this Mononoke that's fighting Reigo the cat looks like a big human. Then he quickly turns into like a werewolf kind of looking monster. And Jiro's like, okay, well, ninja training and all that. I got to protect the little cat, even though he says he's a demon. But it's just another talking cat to me. That's nothing new in his world. So he's fighting with the monster. You think like, okay, yeah, he's breaking out that ninja skill, till he gets impaled through the chest by the monster as Mononoke. Mm-hmm. And so he is dying straight up. And so Reigo goes up to him and merges with him, turn him into, basically giving him even more power.
Right.
To which he quickly dispatches that thing. And that's kind of, it ends with them revealing that there's an organization of humans who are monitoring and battling Mononoke as well. And that's generally the first chapter. They got 15 in deep. I know usually we try to go like more recent stuff, but this is just a series I really wanted to bring attention to because it goes on from his training to the different monsters, his combat, the art. I think it's great. I love the artwork, the character designs,
the way they use shadows in it.
Oh yeah, because he makes a really good use of the fact that most manga is all black and white, and like it's styled well. The designs he gets you see some power ups within these 15 issues, and the designs look even cooler and cooler. And it's just again like Bleach. I follow Bleach throughout its entirety, and it kind of fell off towards the end. This one has that early goodness of style, action, design, and likable characters.
Yeah.
So it's like Jerry, you're reading it too, and it's just like, it's one I highly recommend. I think they got maybe 3 volumes physically.
And it's interesting. So it's on the Shonen Jump app. You can read everything that's up to date for free. Yeah. They don't release weekly. They just release new chapters when the new volume releases. So, and the cool thing about it, that differentiates it with some other manga, usually you get 18, 20 pages. Yeah. Like every chapter of this is around like 40 pages.
Right. So they're much long. It's a much longer manga per chapter in there. And like I said, it's built in a really cool world, especially the last chapter, which like I said, I don't want to get into. I want y'all to go out and read this because again, you can find the volumes average about $10 or so, I think, in most bookstores. Or, as we've pimped many times before, the Shonen Jump app, which is only $2 a month with access to all of this great manga. Yeah. And this one, like I said, it's only 15 chapters in. I think it's really cool world, really great art. And like I said, it's likable characters and style. I love the art style. I need to look and see if this dude's done anything else before this one. Right. Yeah.
If you had to compare, if is there another manga that you could compare the art style to?
Bleach. Honestly, besides just the style, also the look is kind of like the early Bleach where it had like these, like I said, a lot of the black and white. He made use of that. So that creator did as well. That's
very cool. Have you ever seen Princess Mononoke?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's where I heard the name from, which is, it's like we hear kaiju and, Oni and stuff a lot, but Mononoke is another term for that similar kind of thing, I believe. But I think that's more reference towards the ones that kind of morph into human. I think I could be wrong on that.
It was a fantastic series. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Same.
Good stuff. Well, I read a book this week, and it's it's a book. It came out a couple weeks ago, and I really this might be my favorite thing I've read this year. It's hard to say that it's not. The book is called Waves. It is written by Ingrid Chabert and drawn by Carol Morial. It is published by Archaia, which is a publishing company we don't talk about a whole lot on the show because normally we talk about the monthlies and the floppies and all that fun stuff.
They do mostly graphic novels like Mouse Guard, I think, is Archaia.
Mm-hmm. And this is good stuff. It's kind of autobiographical. In the story, it's basically it's a story of Ingrid's real life experience. And so Ingrid and her partner, she's in a queer relationship. Ingrid and her partner they're married. They're trying to have a child, and they're experiencing a lot of issues with having that child. There's a lot of complications. They've gone for the testing and they just can't get pregnant. And for a queer couple, it's a very expensive process if you want to go the way they're going and getting the fertilization treatments and stuff like that. But they get a phone call, and she really is not expecting to hear good news, but she does. She hears good news. She's pregnant. They're going to have a baby. It's this joyous occasion, and so they're making plans, and they're going through the process of thinking about becoming mothers. Both of these women identify as women, and that's why when I say there's a queer relationship, you don't get a lot of specifics. They could be lesbians. Her partner could be a trans woman. It doesn't say. You don't know, and her partner's drawn kind of ambiguously, so you don't know for sure. Yeah, which I think is brilliant. And they're doing this, and they're getting ready to be moms, and they're picking out little outfits. They go for the gender reveal. Ingrid does a really good job about using they them pronouns until they are quote unquote given the gender. They know they're having a little boy at that point. Before that, they're using they them pronouns again. I think it's just good writing, good sensitive writing. They're setting up their nursery. And then they start having some problems with the pregnancy. Ingrid's character, they're spotting. She wakes up and there's blood, and so they go to the hospital, and they don't know where the bleeding is. This is early. It's early in the pregnancy. They are having a really hard time. The doctors are figuring out where she's bleeding, and Ingrid just, she's like, hey, my body has to hold up till my baby gets here. Like, other than that, you have to save the baby. And so she stays in the hospital for a while. They're on bed rest. She's a writer, so she's writing these children's stories. The story she's working on right now is about a bear and a little boy who's his best friend. And so she's working on that, but things just aren't getting any better. Her partner is stepping in and being amazing, handling everything, all the business side of stuff back home. But it just keeps getting progressively worse, and they're not able to save the child. They have to do an emergency C-section on her to try to get the baby out because her body's just shutting down. It's killing both of them. And they do. They do the C-section, and for a moment, things are kind of, you don't know which way they're going to go. Things aren't good. They do, in fact, lose the baby. The baby's not able to live and survive that. And so then Ingrid's character is going through this postpartum depression, loss, this grieving process. Her partner is as well. They're trying to lean on each other. She has to stay in the hospital because she has to stay in the maternity ward too because she's just had a baby. That's where the doctors and the nurses are who specialize in her condition are there. And so she's having to see these other mothers get their child, and how they're having. And this is back in time where most hospitals, if you go to now in the maternity ward, you have a single bed, a single room. Even so much as 20-something years ago, like when my little brother was born, my mother was sharing a room with someone. And so, the lady, the family next to her gets to hold their baby, and she gets to hear them crying, and they get to hear all the family kind of rejoicing about this joyous moment. And it just makes her life a living hell, as you can imagine. I can't imagine what that would be like. So eventually she does get to go home. The doctors get to, they get her back, get her healthy. It's a long process. She's having trouble walking. It's just a very arduous, it's heavy on her soul. She and her partner start going to therapy. They go to a kind of a group therapy, and they're talking to other parents and other couples who've experienced the same kind of loss. They're doing the right things to kind of move on with their lives, and to grieve in the right way. They go to the beach, and she's spending this time just at the end of the summer on the beach, and there's these wonderful scenes where this, a dog walks up, and she feeds the dog, and she starts talking to the dog, and she's working on her stories. And by the end of, there's this really poignant thing where she's looking at the dog, and she kind of relates to this animal, or at least she finds some comfort, and she wonders if he likes children too as she's working on this book. At the end of it, she decides that she needs to be a writer full time, that she can't go back to her old life, that she's changed so much, she needs to work on these stories, that she needs to get them out into the world, and her partner's fully supportive. She's just like, yeah, you do what you need to do. Like, we're in this together. So she sends out some manuscripts. She finishes her book about the kid and the bear. It's called The Bear and the Jelly or something. I forget what exactly it's called. Sends it off. She gets these rejection letter after rejection letter, which is common. If you're a writer, you know what that's like. I've gotten like 3 last week. I'm a little sad. But that's part of it, but finally she gets that one that says, hey, you're exactly the right fit for our company. We're going to publish your book. And it's just a great thing that it's the moment that she needed. She produced a thing that's going to go out in the world. It's a metaphor for her loss and for her sadness and for her anxiety. She has this breakdown moment of yes, like I've succeeded at this, but when you have this kind of depression, happy moments, your highs loop back into lows because you remember, oh, I'm not supposed to be happy. Like I've got this trauma in my past. Like, why am I happy right now? I shouldn't be. I should still be sad, experiencing loss. But her partner stops her. She says, hey, get in the car. We're going for a drive. Where are we going? I'm not going to tell you. We're just going. Get in the car. And she grabs a copy of her book. And they go back to, I guess it's a lake. Maybe it's the ocean. It's a beach of some sort. And they walk down to the end of the pier, and they sit down at the end of the pier, and her partner says, do you mind if I read this to him? To their son, who has been, they've gone through the process of burying him. And so that's where the book ends, is they're reading this story to their lost child at the beach. Y'all know me. If you think I read this book and wasn't blubbering like a baby, you're full of shit. I've read this book 3 times since I've got it. If you've ever read an Archaia book, you know the kind of literary, the art style is nothing, the cartooning is nothing that you shouldn't expect. It's not heavily detailed. They use an economy of line. It's very expressionist in a way. But everything is drawn, like the little moves that they make, using the color to set the tone at the beginning of the book. She's drowning in an ocean, but the ocean is red. So, I mean, it's a metaphor for anger, but it's also a metaphor for, like I said, spotting and the blood and everything that has to do with the trouble of her pregnancy that kind of sets you up to where this book is going. Carol Morrill uses color theory in a really, really good way. These happy moments are bright and shiny. They're golden. They're literally golden moments in the background. When she's getting the phone call about being pregnant, and when they're scared, they go into these dark blues and this really shady gray and even some greens. There's a scene in the book to where they're holding their dead son. It's just kind of, it's right after the child dies. They want to be alone with their son, and they're holding this baby, and it's all in black and gray wash. And a nurse comes in there, and they're trying to talk to her about, what they can do to remember this child. And she's like, well, do you want a photograph of you holding your child? And they do. And it's all in black and white. It's just so poignant, so touching. This is why I love comics. I love our superheroes. Don't get me wrong. I think, I read a shit ton of books about dudes and chicks in tights punching bad guys and everything. But books like this, books like Waves, it's the power of sequential storytelling. You can't evoke the emotion that you can evoke with lines and colors out of prose. And that's coming from, I love prose. I write prose. You can't do it. This is why I love storytelling through art. Why I love people who write memoirs through their art. Because it's so, all art is subjective, but it's expressly subjective with this. And you get these just incredibly hooking moments of humanity that I can't imagine. They don't. The method of putting this into another art form doesn't exist, at least as far as I know, in my experience. I won't be surprised to see this book up for Eisners next year. Last episode we talked about books that were nominated for Eisners for 2019. I won't be surprised if this is on the list for next year. It's just it is heart-wrenching, but it's this quiet. There's a quiet comfort at the end of the story. It's a resolution of moving on, of getting through this. That I don't know, just man, it's these stories. I'm a depressing person maybe, but these stories just speak to me in a way that I don't really. they allow me to experience something that I'll never be able to experience. I mean, I'll never be a woman. I'll never know what it's like to potentially get pregnant. I'll never know the loss, and I'm kind of happy about that. And as a gay man who's not interested in having children, I'll never know this idea of parenthood, but it allows me for a brief moment to experience that and to empathize with the people who do experience that. And especially on a week, and I'm not going to get too much into this, but on a week like this week where you've had states passing these laws just demonizing women's health, and ripping women's rights to control their bodies and to control their parenthood out of their hands, in order to move us to some sort of weird, male fascism, stepping us back hundreds of years in the past. Like reading this book this week, it weighed so heavy on me because I was like, this is the positive side of talking about the idea of pregnancy and even the idea of loss. Just to have all this, the juxtaposition of what went on this past week, it just weighed on me so much. Like I had a really, really interesting couple of hours where I was just sitting alone, just contemplating. And I love books that do that. Like, I don't know if you guys, if there are types of stories that make you do that, or even our listeners, but books that just make you like stop, turn off all the music, all the television, all the noise, and just contemplate what's happening in these books. To me, those are the best. That's art. Like, that's high art. Anybody who thinks comics that have to be disposable or have to be just resound to like children's stories, no, like Waves is high art.
Well, I mean, they're not your parents' Archie's comics.
Right.
So it's great that comics can span such a spectrum of emotions and genres, and that they can evoke emotions in people and have, realistic fiction.
Yeah.
That can do that for people. So,
yeah. And I mean, like, high or low, if something can make you feel that strongly emotionally from literature, like it's powerful.
Yeah. It's powerful work. It's magic.
Absolutely.
Jerry, bring us back up a little bit, man. What do you got this week?
Let me follow that with my Spider-Man book.
Let's hear about your funny book, Jerry.
Well, no, but before you do that, I just want to say, like you mentioned, it's not your grandparents' Archie comics. That's not to diminish those books, and it's not to diminish books like Spider-Man either. Yeah, yeah,
for sure.
I just want to, I'm not being an elitist snob about
my draft. Hey, take your high horse out the house and sit back down with the rest of us commenters who like funny spandex people.
I can talk about art theory too. No, we all can, and that's why we're on this show. But go ahead, Jerry.
So I have been raving to you guys for so long about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It has been probably, I almost want to say that this has been one of my favorite Spider-Man runs like ever. And have any of y'all heard about this issue yet?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah. So the issue that I have is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6, introducing Spider Bite. I was interested from the get-go because I was like, oh, a new spider character, I saw someone, post a link for it online, and I read it after reading this book, or I read people's comments and they're like, oh, blah, 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 another Spider-Man, blah. It's so much more than that. So, to start off the writing it, we've got Tom Taylor. Artist is Juan Cabal. Color artists, we have Nolan Woodward and Federico Blee, and VC's Travis Lanham as the letterer. I have been loving the story that they've been crafting. The art has been phenomenal, but let's get into the book. So we start off, and Spider-Man is fighting Doc Ock, and Doc Ock has the upper hand on him. He's apparently they were fighting over this thing called the box. The Doc Ock has won. It's like this box of light, and Spider-Man is like under some rubble, and all of a sudden, somebody shouts out, "Hey, get every single one of your hands off of him," and it ends up being this kid in a Spider-Man suit named Spider Bite, and he basically comes in and just starts beating the crap out of Doc Ock, and all of a sudden the Vulture swoops down and saves Doc Ock, and they jump on a subway train.
It's good to have friends.
Yeah, so Spider Bite helps Peter up out of the rubble, and they're working together, and he's Spider-Man just is like, oh, you good? You need a rest? He's like, no, we're good. Let's do it. We have a train to catch. Peter's just basically talking about how that's weird that they took this train, but here we go. And he was like, are you gonna tell me what's in the box that they have? And the kid basically says, it's the heart of the city. So they're, walking up this train and you see these figures that are in like trench coats and hats, but you can obviously tell that like, from their legs and everything, that these are villains. Mm-hmm. So the spider sense
expected it to be Dirty Morpheus's soul.
so their spider senses start going off. Craven pops up. Black Cat pops up. You see Vulture and Dr. Octopus again, and they all start fighting on this train. And then the villains like bust out of it, and Spidey and Spider-Bite are chasing after them. And they get to this point in the train station, and all of a sudden you see Green Goblin pops up and Mysterio pops up, and he's like, Peter's like, "Oh, is this a Sinister Six team up?" And Green Goblin says, "No, there's more than that." And it opens up to this double-page spread, and he says, "It's the Sinister 60." And it shows, like, so many fucking villains in this. Like, I mean, you've even got, like, the most obscure and ridiculous ones, but it's a really well-done page.
It's a great layout.
Yeah. And then my second favorite page, double-page spread in this book is...
Hey, Wendy.
Just a fuck ton of panels of Spider-Bite and Spider-Man just single-handedly taking out every single one of these. Yeah, I said single-handedly.
Well, no, you're not a fan of the 9-panel pages here lately. How do you feel about 27?
I am a fan of them doing creative things.
No, absolutely.
And just like, showing all these different things of them fighting all of these villains. And then they get to Green Goblin as the last one. And they both do like a double punch and just knock him out. And Peter's like, "Oh, I didn't know Osborn had this in him to put something like this together." And he says like, "What, me? I'm not the mastermind of this." And Peter's like, "Then who?" And the fucking Stilt Man shows up. he has the box at this point. And like Peter's like, "Stilt Man, really? Stilt Man has put this together?" And Spider-Bite's like, "I wouldn't underestimate him." He's like, he's never been this tall before. Like, his legs are just ridiculous. Yeah. He's towering over skyscrapers and stuff. They're basically fighting him and everything. And he says something to the extent of like, "I wonder why it's Stilt Man." And the kid's like, "Oh, well, he's your greatest foe," or whatever. And he's like, "Why? Because he's tall?" And the kid's like, "Yeah." So... long story short, they end up taking him down. They're sitting on. They end up. They have the box. It's the aftermath, and Spider-Man's just like, so what is it? What is in the box? And he opens up the box, and it's a Spider-Man action figure.
I was wondering if there was a dick in the box.
And it is not.
It's Dirty Morpheus' soul.
And it's kind of funny because the kid's like, "Oh, do you own one?" He's like, "Oh, no, I don't collect my own figures." And then there's kind of like a pause, and he's like, "Okay, I might collect my figures." And he's like, "Oh, I wish I had this many points of articulation." And while they're sitting on this building, Spider-Bite starts coughing, and he's like, are you okay? He's like... here, let's get this mask off of you. And the kid's like, "Oh, but my secret identity." As they're sitting on top of this building talking, you kind of start looking at the building and notice that looks like crayon and cardboard and everything. And you find out that this whole thing, was, this kid with cancer.
Yeah.
And
I thought you were bringing us back up, Jerry. God damn you.
I was so glad when you said you did not know about this issue.
And Spider-Man basically had spent the day with this kid saving the city and the hospital. All of the doctors and people were dressed up as the villains. His dad was Stilt Man. And, they were like, "Thanks for this." And, he just, had a great day, and they're kind of like, "Well, you're exhausted. So, you should probably, lie down, take a nap." And the kid kind of has a tantrum because he's having a great day. And he's like, "I don't want to go to sleep." So
just fucking stop, Jerry. I swear to God, if the kid dies on the next panel.
So the parents kind of pull Spider-Man aside, and they're all talking and everything. And they're kind of apologizing for his outburst, but he's like, "No, listen, it's, I understand what it is." And, they're like, cause I guess he's getting ready to go have his operation, and they're like, he's worried he won't get up again after this. Like,
yeah,
like that this is his last. Spider-Man kind of looks at him. He's like, "Does he have a coat?" And they're like, what? And he's like, a coat, something warm. So he goes back in the room and, the kid apologizes for yelling. And, he was like, you like being, Spider-Man for a day? And he was like, yeah, it was awesome. He's like, good. Cause here's the thing. Your day's not over. And it ends with, them swinging into I'm starting to crack up now. Swinging into the sunset with the kid in his coat. And that was his day being Spider-Man.
God damn it.
Oh yeah,
Peter.
And
I didn't read it, but when I saw what it was about, I was like, that's fucking amazing.
And this is I don't know, one of the things that was kind of interesting about this issue, because it was a really like I said, they have nonstop been impressing me with this series with just the art and the storytelling in it, and like they write Peter Spider-Man so well in it. And
you made Caleb cry. Well, we're just talking about comic books being high art.
Yeah,
for real. I mean,
well, I'm pretty sure I went over the first issue in this.
Yeah.
And at the end of the first issue, you find out that Aunt May has a secret. She's been going to some, doctor appointments and stuff. Right. At the end of the last issue, she reveals to Peter, after all this stuff that he's been through, that she has cancer. So it's but
Poor Peter, he can never catch a break.
Yeah, I was not expecting that out of this issue. And just their use of all the characters and everything, all the villains in it.
It's interesting because when you were telling the story, because I'm currently not reading any of the Spider-Man books, but
which is weird for you.
I'm buying them all because I've made the mistake of quit buying them before, and then I have to go back and rebuy them to fill in my collection. But I'm not currently reading any of them. But you were talking about them fighting all of the bad guys, and I'm thinking, well, who's going to be his bad guy? I mean, they tore through all of them that easy. Who's going to be his rogue gallery now?
Yeah. And like, I don't know, just their use of all those characters. And then whenever you get to reality and it shows like all of the people, like nurses and everything, and his parents dressed up as villains and stuff, like it was really sweet. It was really. It was
basically Spider-Man Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a good time to plug the Make-A-Wish Foundation. If you, as somebody who nonprofits are near and dear to my heart, as somebody who loves the idea of people who can helping people who can't. If you have some extra cash you want to give somewhere, send it to the Make-A-Wish Foundation and help kids have these moments. And this was, like I said, I didn't know Jerry was going to talk about this, but damn.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a one-off issue. You don't have to read anything.
Most of the Friendly Neighborhood stuff's been 1 or 2 or maybe 3.
They just finished a 4-issue story arc.
Did they?
Yeah, and then the last issue was a one-off with him trying to come to terms with Aunt May having cancer and everything, and then this one. So I'm sure with issue 7 we're going to start our new story arc, but. I've been to 2 comic book stores this week, and these are still on the shelf. Issue 6 of Friendly Neighborhood. Yeah. Pick it up. It's fantastic. So
I will probably pick it up today.
Yeah.
Tom Taylor's great.
Yeah.
Like his all new Wolverine series. He introduced us to Honey Badger. He's great at writing kids. He's great at writing these stories that feel fun and adventurous, but you can give them to adolescents, boys or girls. He's when we think about these hot writers, especially hot young writers now, obviously we're thinking about people like Donny Cates. There's a handful of young creative types that are just blowing it up right now. For me, at least, I never really think about Tom Taylor on that list, but I should. He absolutely needs to be there because he's just low key killing it on everything he touches.
Yeah,
it's just
I can already tell just based off of the 6 issues of the series that I've read that this is probably going to be one of my favorite Spider-Man runs, like easily.
Yeah. His X-Men Red too, dude. It's just such a good writer. It's bananas.
BANANAS.
Yep, this shit is bananas. You know what else is bananas?
What's that?
Our Facebook page, which everybody listening to the show needs to come hop on and have fun with us, because we'll tell you what we're reading and we'll talk about news, and we will lead into things like our next segment where we tell you what we're going to pick up for New Comic Book Day, which is slowly coming upon us. Every Wednesday, it's when the new issues hit the shelves, either the literal shelves at your local comic shop or the metaphorical shelves at your digital streaming service, wherever you buy your books. As long as you buy them, that's all that matters. And we always pick up books every week, and we always tell you what we think that you should pick up. And we're going to lead off with Craig on this one. What's your New Comic Book Day book, brother?
I'm picking up Faithless #2.
Nice.
by Boom Studios, Brian Azzarello, Maria Lovett, and Paul Pope. They sold me on the first issue of this 5-issue miniseries, and apparently I like smutty comic books, so I'm going to pick up the second one.
Did you say Paul Pope?
Paul Pope.
Oh, it's interesting. I read a Paul Pope graphic novel this week.
Yeah.
What was it?
It's funny. It's an anthology series. I've got it at home. I forget what the
Is it
title
Battle
was.
Pope?
No, it's not Battle Pope. No.
Oh, wait. That's
Battle
Robert
Paul
Kirkman.
Pope.
No, it's an anthology series. It's called One Trick Shot and
Oh,
a Sword
yeah.
Story. Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a story
Yeah.
about an armadillo in that thing
Yeah.
that I love. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's all good. But yeah, I really enjoyed Faithless #1. You thought it was just going to be a
one
smutty
trick shot ripoff.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
okay.
it.
Sorry.
No, you just kind of thought Faithless was going to be like this smut book based
Uh-huh.
on the advertising for it, but it turned out that it actually has a story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Well, I'm going to tell you to go pick up a book that's maybe similar to the book I read this week. It's an OGN. It's going to be like
Be
10,
prepared to
10
cry.
bucks. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Bring the tissues.
It's called Island Book, and it's written and drawn by Evan Dom. So Island Book is about a girl named Sola, and Sola is cursed. At least that's what everyone tells her. It all started the day that the monster came to the island. While others fled, Sola stood before the creature, alone and unafraid. Since then, she's been treated like an outcast, shamed and feared for an event that she doesn't understand. Sola sets out to sea looking for answers. In an endless ocean far from home, she discovers that her island isn't alone, and the monster isn't the only life to be found in the uncharted waters. Boundless adventure awaits in Island Book, an epic tale of friendship, teamwork, and the wisdom we gain when we face the unknown with bravery and an open heart. I'm going to be reading a lot of these over the summer where I have more time to pour through stuff. But still, this book, it's going to be a hardcover. It's about the size of Waves, from what I understand. Still only going to cost you $12. That you can't beat that. If you buy from Discount Comic Book for service, it'll cost you half off that, which is dopeness. So check it out. Sean, what you reading, dude?
Next issue I'll be reading, it will be Savage Dragon 244. This is the return of one of my favorite characters in the Savage Dragon universe. Powerhouse, Eric Larson's strongest, most like Superman-esque character, who's a giant chicken man. I don't know why I fucking love him. It is ridiculous, but it is continuing the fact that Malcolm's life is kind of like crashing down around him. Like his marriage is in trouble. Like his wife's having a lot of issues because she's been attacked several times up in Canada. Canada's not a nice place in Eric Larson's versions. But, again, the ongoing saga of Savage Dragon, I can't wait because Powerhouse, giant chicken man.
Nice.
I feel like I haven't heard you talk about Savage Dragon in a long
It's
time.
been a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there's other stuff that you're on.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that I've really been excited about. I'm still enjoying this. It's kind of like, without having to go into like every issue. I don't always, because of our new format, I can't, I don't have an issue almost every week anymore. And there's a lot going on. And it'd be like jumping back and forth between different, like several issues. I understand what's fully going on. And sometimes they're just books I want to talk about a bit more. So I haven't really dived into this arc because it's really been a big one. You know what I mean? So I just haven't dived into it too much.
Very cool. All right, Jerry, finish us off on this one, buddy.
Dial H for Hero number 3. Sam Humphries and Joe Quinones. The second issue, I will say that they did some weird.
Dial H for Hero did some weird
No.
stuff.
Well,
Say what?
that I was fine with. They did a weird correction or a character not development, but the switch. Basically, like his personality seemed way different from the first issue, which I wasn't crazy about. But we all know that the reason why I'm here for Dial H is to see what all weird and wacky heroes they can come up with, and the artists that they.
It's a book written just for you, Jerry.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It's random as fuck, and I love it. And I mean, like the last issue had some great references. They had a mech reference and they had a Dragon Ball reference. And the Dragon Ball reference was actually drawn by someone that I've been following on Instagram for a while. I don't know. I think he's done very little. But it's Sam Gibson.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's mostly done a lot of covers for Power Rangers. I don't know if he's a huge Super Sentai Kamen Rider fan. So got to give him love whenever that stuff comes out. But yeah,
Nice.
I'm ready for Dial H number 3.
Very, very cool. Go to your shops, guys. Support your local comic shop. We ready to bring this thing home?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's do it. We hope you have enjoyed our little podcast today. Every Sunday, we try to drop a new one. We have fun doing it. We do it for us, but we do it for you too, because we love you and we love to hear from you. So swing by our Facebook page, like we've said, and our Instagram and our Twitter pages. If you've got any questions or comments and concerns or something like that you don't maybe want to voice on a public forum, shoot us an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. If you want us to do us a huge solid, something we would really appreciate, get on whatever you use to listen to this podcast, be it iTunes or Google Play or YouTube or just whatever, and leave us a rating and a review. Rate us if you want to. Go ahead and click the number of stars you think we deserve, hopefully 5. But do us a favor, leave us a little blurb on there. Tell us what you like about the show, or hell, if you don't like it, tell us why you don't like it, because we'd love to know. That would be great. It not only helps people who are maybe looking for a new podcast know that our show might be something of the quality that they're looking for to fill the missing comic talk gap in their life. But it also helps us with the algorithms of those different apps, and it boosts us a little bit, so people can find us a little bit easier. And we just really want to be found. That's really my only thing.
I am going to throw out there that I'm going to be starting next Thursday, Seattle for a whole 9 days or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So if anybody is from that area or anything like that, and you have places that you want to recommend I go to,
very cool.
That would be awesome. I'm totally up for that. Otherwise, I'll miss you guys for 2 episodes.
I just realized you're going to be in Starbucks heaven, and you're going to be annoying and hyper for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
And Seattle's best coffee.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really all I want you to do is send Jerry recommendations and also leave us rating and reviews. If you want to do more, you can, and you can come hang out with us at all the really cool places that we tell you about, because we've got good recommendations. Come back for more. Next week we've got listener questions, which is, I'm sad you're going to miss that because that's always fun for you.
Yeah.
But we, if you still got time to get questions in, we have, if you go to the announcement sections on our Facebook page, there's a little announcement with a GIF of a question thing. And you can put your questions there, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, Jerry's going to miss the all Stephanie question power hour that we're going to be doing on that episode.
We'll probably break hers up a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Sections.
Yeah. Other than that, guys, go forth. Love some comics. Woo!